Free Union by Andre Breton. My wife whose hair is a forest fire, her thoughts that are hot lightning, her hourglass waist. My wife with the waist of an otter and the teeth of a tiger. My wife with the mouth of a cockade and bouquet of stars of the greatest magnitude. Her teeth are prints of white mice on white earth. Her tongue of polished amber and glass. My wife with the tongue of a stabbed host. The tongue of a doll that opens and closes its eyes. A tongue of unbelievable stone. My wife whose eyelashes are children's first letters, eyebrows the edge of a swallow's nest. My wife with temples, the slates of greenhouse roof, and steam on the panes. My wife with shoulders of champagne, and a spring with the heads of dolphins under ice. My wife with wrists of matches. My wife with fingers of chance and the aces of hearts. Her fingers of cut hay. My wife with armpits of sable and berries, and midsummer night. A privet and a nest of angelfish, whose arms are a sea foam and a floodgate, and a mixture of wheat and a mill. My wife with legs that are rockets, with movements of clockwork and despair. My wife with calves at the core of the elderberry tree. My wife whose feet are initials. Her feet are bunches of keys and caulkers drinking. My wife with a neck of unhulled barley. Her throat is the valley of gold. A rendezvous in the very bed of the flood, with her breasts of night. My wife with breasts of molehill by the sea. My wife with breast a crucible of ruby. Breast the spectre of the rose covered with dew. My wife whose belly is open a fan of days. Her belly a giant claw. My wife with the back of a bird on the vertical flight. A back of quicksilver, a back of light. The back of her neck her stone and wet chalk, and a fall of a glass from which you have just drunk. My wife with her gondola hips, chandelier hips, and arrow feathers, and shafts of white peacock feathers, and trembling scales. My wife with buttocks of sandstone and asbestos. My wife with swan's back buttocks, buttocks of springtime. With her gladiola sex, sex of a mine, and the duck-billed platypus. My wife with her sex of seaweed and ancient candy. My wife with her sex mirror. My wife with her eyes filled with tears. Her eyes of violet armor and a magnetic needle. My wife with her savannah eyes. My wife's eyes are water to be drunk in prison. Eyes of wood always under the axe. Her eyes are the level of water of air and earth and fire. In Breton's writing, he uses a lot of imagery, especially when describing his wife and the way she appears. A lot of imagery is shown in Andre Breton's piece, Free Union. In almost every line he uses imagery. For example, when he starts with my wife whose hair is a forest fire, he gives you a statement like that, you can't help but imagine her hair and its color. Imagery appears to be a strength in this poem. Another example is when he says her thoughts that are hot lightning. To me, that implies that her thoughts are quick and creative, intriguing, and unique. Lastly, an example is her hourglass waist. That statement gives you an opportunity to imagine her body structure and what it specifically looks like.